So welcome to the 10th lecture in ME303 heat transfer. Until now, we have been deriving the heat equation for cylindrical coordinates. And the reason was that we want to analyze the heat conduction in pipe-like geometries where cylindrical coordinates are very intuitive. So by the end of the last lecture, I wrote the one-dimensional steady state homogeneous K heat equation. So this was 1D. So that was only in the radial direction. So you had a system like this. Okay, so there is some hot fluid. The flowing in the inner pipe, and then you have an insulation, a layer of insulation above it, which is the dashed one, and then on the outside you have a cold fluid. Okay, so this cold fluid is at temperature Tc, and the hot fluid is at temperature Th, and the heat transfer coefficient on the inside is H. We'll call it HH, and on the outside you have HC. So there's convection happening, and that is heating the inner pipe. So we'll assume that the inner pipe surface, which is this one, is at temperature Th, and then the outside temperature is Tc. Okay, so this temperature is Tc, and this temperature is Th. And then you will have some sort of temperature variation inside this insulation, and that is what we want to find. Our aim is always to find the temperature distribution inside the solid or inside the medium where conduction is happening. And once we know the temperature distribution, we can find the rate of heat flow using the Fourier's law of heat conduction. Okay, so let's write the heat conduction equation. So this was one-dimensional steady state, and then you had a homogeneous K. So if it's one-dimensional, then your heat equation simply becomes, so in this case your temperature is purely a function of R. Okay, so R is the distance. So if we call this the center, then at some distance here we'll call this R. So R goes from Ri, that's the radius of the inner pipe, to Ro, that's the radius of the outer pipe. So that's the range of R, from Ri to Ro, and temperature varies as a function of R only. So here the equation we have is 1 by R So this is the equation for heat conduction that we have. For this situation. All right. So we will, and then also we always have to find the rate of heat transfer. So this Q radial, so I'll write QR, is using the Fourier's law of heat conduction. Remember, this was minus Ka grad of T. So grad T, if you remember, was from our initial discussion. And remember, we only want the rth direction because it's QR, the heat flowing out in the radial direction, and that's the only direction that the heat is flowing anyways. So the gradient was simply del T by del R in the rth direction. Okay, so this becomes dt by dr. And this is for any R, arbitrary R that we have chosen inside the insulation. Now the area is the surface area. So in this case, the area is, well, at any R is the circumference times the length of the pipe. So let's take the length of this pipe as L. So it's 2 pi R times L is the area through which the conduction is happening. So this A can be replaced by 2 pi R times L. All right. Now, if I see this vein heat equation, let's call this 1, and let's call this 2. So what I see from 1 is that this d by dr of this quantity is 0. Okay, so r is well, when you multiply this by r on both sides, you get this rk dt by dr as a constant. So if you have rk dt by dr as a constant, and of course 2 pi l is a constant anyways, so what we see is that this qr is a constant. Again, very intuitive, because what is flowing out from any r or any well, plane that you take has to be the same, because heat's flowing from inside to the outside. So the qr for any r, including ri and ro, will be the same. So whatever flows from outwards from ri flows out from ro. So you take any arbitrary cross section and the heat going out will be the same. And that is exactly what we saw earlier as well. But in this case, since we have this r getting multiplied, so be careful. But in this case, the equation was different. So that's the reason we have r times dt by dr as a constant, and hence this becomes constant. K we have taken as constant, but even if the k was not, k we've taken as homogeneous, but even if k was not homogeneous, even then we would see that this quantity, including k, will be constant. Okay. So what we see is that this QR is constant. Remember that QR double prime, which was the heat flux, is not constant in this case. Okay, because the heat flux is this per unit area. So that's 2 pi divided by 2 pi RL. So K times dt by dr is not a constant. It's K times R times dt by dr, that is constant. So earlier things were, life was simple because you had the area of cross section independent of the R, but in this case you have an R here. So don't write the heat flux to be constant, write the rate of heat flow, that is the watts, that are constant. Fine. So now we can solve this. So we can solve this equation, and once we do that, I'll use the space on my right hand side. So we're trying to we're solving t as a function of r. So when you take this thing to be constant, so you get this is called c1. So c1 divided by r times dr. So what you'll get is dr becomes c1, the natural log of r, plus c2. So that is the solution we get for temperature as a function of r. Okay. And you have two constants here because it's a second order ODE, and the two conditions, the two boundary conditions you have here are both Dirichlet. So boundary conditions are T at Ri is T T hot, and T at R out is T cold. All right, so we substitute these and get the values of the constants. I won't do that here in the interest of time. I will simply write the solution. So what you get is T as a function of R is Ts, sorry, is Th minus T cold divided by the natural log of Ri by R naught times the natural log of R by R naught. Well, I think I've gone outside the board. Plus T cold. Okay, let's check this. So if I substitute R equals Ri, which is the inner radius, then I get ln Ri by R naught. So this cancels with this, and then we have simply Th. That's the inner temperature. And if I substitute R equals R naught, then this becomes 1. So this becomes a 0, and we get Tc, which is outside temperature. Okay, so this is my temperature as a function of R. So you can see it's a logarithmic variation. So if I was to plot this, okay, so it's given to me that for R equals Ri, the temperature is T hot. So this is T hot. So we have here, and then for R equals R naught, that is on the outside, we have T cold, which is here. And the variation is logarithmic, so something like this. Okay, so this is a logarithmic decay in the temperature as you go from the inside to the outside in this, sorry, from the Ri to R naught in this insulation in the pipe. All right. And I can, in fact, using this T, now I can write my QR. So my QR was minus K 2 pi RL times dt by dr. So I can do that. And I can find my QR as well. So let's find some space for that. Well, let me erase the board because we don't need the equation now. So the watts, that's QR, which was minus K times 2 pi RL times dt by dr. So once I substitute this temperature distribution, what I get is QR is 2 pi Lk Th minus Tc divided by ln okay, R naught by Ri. Okay, so that's my QR. Okay, so that's your rate of heat flow out of the any cross section of the pipe. Well, lateral cross section. It's what we've got is a very nice expression because again we can get some sort of thermal resistance for this case. So if you look at this equation and try to take an analogy with your heat current, so you have the current, which is the watts, the rate of heat flow. Then you have a potential difference. So this is I. This is your potential difference V, and then this whole thing is your 1 by R thermal. So we can get an R thermal as ln r naught by ri divided by 2 pi L K. So again, we can have an idea of thermal resistance. So I don't need to derive this expression again and again. What I can do is, once I know the temperature on the inside and the outside and the radii, I can get a corresponding thermal resistance for this situation. Okay. So if I wanted to write the overall thermal resistance in this case, so I would let's say, in this case, I assume that the temperature on the inside was Tc and the outside was T hot. But in case that was not the case, you had some convection happening on both sides, and then that caused the inside temperature to be slightly different. Then you would have an R total. Then the first resistance you have is because of convection on the inside. So that becomes 1 divided by H times the area, which is 2 pi Ri L. Then next you had conduction resistance, which is what we just derived. And then you would have another convection resistance happening on the outside because of the cold fluid. So that's 1 by H cold times area, which is 2 pi R out times L. So that is going to be your total resistance. Any questions? All right. Now let's take a situation. Well, let's take an industrial situation where you had a thin-walled copper tube. Okay, so it was a thin-walled copper tube, which was of a radius Ri, that was used to transport a low-temperature refrigerant. Okay, it can be a refrigerator or an air conditioner. So your thin-walled copper tube is used to transport low-temperature refrigerant, and it's at temperature Ti. Okay, so let's draw the figure. So it's a thin-walled copper tube. So copper is highly thermally conductive. So we'll assume that whatever the fluid temperature is on the inside is what the temperature on the surface of the copper tube as well. So there's no temperature variation inside the copper tube surface. Let's assume that. So you have a copper tube radius Ri. So this is Ri, and it has a low temperature refrigerant that's flowing through it, which is at temperature Ti. So the refrigerant temperature is Ti in this copper tube. Of course, this is a cold refrigerant. So you have an ambient T infinity. Okay, so you have it's in your room. So the room's temperature is T infinity. Now you would want to insulate this tube, because if you don't insulate that, then the heat's gonna flow inside, and then your refrigerant's gonna get hotter. Okay, so you want to insulate this copper tubing with some insulating material, thermally insulating material, so that you minimize your rate of heat loss from the into the pipe, because it has got cold refrigerant flowing through it. Now let me ask you again intuitively, what would you do if you had some material? Would you let's say you had glass wool. If you had an option to either put a coating of glass wool on the outside of the pipe, let's say you did not attend heat transfer course in your mechanical engineering, or you never paid attention to this lecture, and you were simply asked in the industry that, can you please insulate the pipe? You have this glass wool. So would you had two options. One was to insulate it, and one was to leave it as it is. What would you do? I know it's a very dumb question. Of course, you would insulate it, but is there anyone who would leave it as it is? Because you never attended heat transfer, so you don't know what will happen. So would you just leave it as it is, or would you insulate it with glass wool so that you minimize the energy loss? So let me ask you. So Rachit, what would you do?
Sir, insulate.
So Rachit will insulate it, but Rachit never attended heat transfer, so he intuitively it makes sense to insulate it, because otherwise it will definitely be some energy loss. Anybody else who thinks otherwise, you would just leave it as it is? Okay, so everybody agrees that you would insulate it, because insulating will lead to minimizing or reducing the loss of energy. But that answer is not correct. Let me tell you why. So let's say you insulate it. Okay, you blindly, you forgot about heat transfer, you have no idea, you never attended classes, you never paid attention, and you simply will insulate it. So you put some coating of any insulating material that you have. Okay, and of course, I mean, since you never attended the lectures, since I never attended lectures, let's say, I simply insulate it, and I just take some thickness, some glass wool, and then just coat it around and cover it with some paper, so that the glass wool stays and I have a nice insulation. So let's say that I, without paying any attention, I arbitrarily insulated with glass wool of a radius r. R was arbitrary in my case, but I could have chosen an R. But since I never knew what to do, so I simply insulated blindly with some radius R. And this glass wool, of course, has some thermal conductivity, which is supposed to be low. So this is thermal conductivity K. And outside you have T infinity, and you have some convection happening. So let's say the heat transfer coefficient is H. So let's draw the thermal circuit here. So you have Ti here. It was a copper pipe. So the surface of the pipe attains the same temperature as the cold fluid. It's highly conductive, so there's no much difference. So you have Ti on the surface of the copper tube. Then the temperature varies inside the glass wool. There's some convection happening, and then you have T infinity of the fluid. So using this, I don't have all three of these. So my total thermal resistance now, so I have first a resistance, because let's draw the circuit. So you have Ti on the inside, then you have R conduction because of the insulation, and then you have R convection because of your surface convection, and then you have T infinity. Okay, so the total resistance is R conduction plus R convection. So R conduction, as we just saw, was Ln, and then you have R naught by Ri. So R naught is R in this case by Ri divided by 2 pi Lk plus the convection resistance is 1 upon HA. So H times area is 2 pi R times L. So R is the surface area from which convection is happening. Now remember, when you insulate something, the idea is to increase the thermal resistance. Okay, that's the idea of insulation. So when I insulate my pipe, I'm supposed to I'm supposed to be adding some earlier this was not there at all because there was no insulation, so there was no thermal conductivity K. So this term has been added. So what you've done is you have increased the resistance total, conduction resistance here. But what's happened is, since you put a coating over it, so you've given it more area. See, it's a different coordinate system. It's cylindrical coordinate system. So when you put a coating, you give it more area. So what you've ended up doing is you have reduced your convection resistance. Because when there was no insulation, the only resistance you had was 1 by 2 pi Ri times L. So when you increase your R here, what you're doing is you're reducing your convection resistance. So it could happen that the sum of the two would be actually less than what you had earlier without any insulation, because you were not giving much area for the convection to happen from the surface. Okay. So what you may end up doing is increasing the rate of heat flow if you added so this R that you choose, the resistance, the radius of the coating, which is R minus Ri in this case, has to be chosen smartly. So let's figure out how as we change our R, that is the insulation thickness, how the resistance varies. And remember, the aim is to increase the overall total resistance from what we had without any coating. So in fact, what we'll do is we'll intuitively think that when you add something, then you slightly increase this, you slightly decrease this. So it may happen that you may end up reducing the resistance, and then so you will have a sweet spot where things will go really bad and then they will start increasing. So what I mean is that here you have your R minus Ri, that is the coating thickness, and here you have your R total. Initially you had some resistance, which was the only convection resistance when you had your coating to be of 0 thickness. Then it will go down and then it will start increasing again. So this is my hypothesis. So it says that there could be a critical radius at which the rate of heat flow would be maximum. That is, my resistance would be minimum. Because what's happening is, if you look at your conduction resistance and convection resistance, so when your R minus Ri is 0, then your conduction resistance is 0. Okay? And as you increase, it increases logarithmically. So you have some sort of logarithmic increase in your R conduction. But then you also have your logarithmic, it's not exponential. And then you have your R convection, which as you increase your radius will go down. So it will start from some value and then it goes down. So this is your R convection, and the sum of the two is your R total. So let's check that. So we can easily check that by using calculus. So what we'll say is that dr total by d small r is 0 at this point, critical point. And then we can also check for maxima or minima by taking the second derivative. So when I do that, then when I differentiate the first term, so what I get is one by 2 pi L K times R. and then I have minus, differentiate this, and then you have 1 by r, so that's r to the minus 1, the minus r to the minus 2, which is r square. This is 0. Are we happy? So this is 0 at r critical. So I put r equal to r critical. So what we see is that our r critical is k by h. So depending on the value of the thermal conductivity of the insulation and the heat transfer coefficient on the outside, you will get a critical radius. And you can again check, you can take a second derivative and check, and you will see that it will come out to be positive. So it's a minima. Yes, it is indeed what I just showed you. So when you start adding insulation, you would see that the resistance will start decreasing, and then it will start increasing again. So for thickness within this range of r or r minus ri, you are doing more harm than good. Okay, so you should always add a thickness which is more than this this value, because I mean, r critical is the minimum. So if you start adding further, you are not doing much help, because you started with a situation where your resistance was this much. If you're supposed to increase the resistance, you're supposed to go for a thickness which is beyond this thickness here. Okay, so if you go further, then you will see that you will end up increasing your total resistance. Is that clear? It's very interesting, the idea of R critical. So let's take an actual situation. So, the situations that you have your internal radius as 5 millimeters. Well, you typically have these copper pipes which are 1 centimeter in diameter, thin pipes. Well, not thin pipes, I mean small diameter pipes. So let's take the situation where you have your Ri is 5 mil. The K value is 0.055 watts per meter Kelvin. Okay. And then you have your H value is, well, again, it's natural convection. So you have 5 watts per meter square Kelvin. So these are typical values you would have. So an insulation material which is 0.055 watts per meter Kelvin, and your H is 5 watts per meter square Kelvin for Ri equals 5 millimeter. So if you see the R critical here, which is your K by H, so R critical comes out to be 11 millimeters. Okay. So what that means is that in this case, R minus Ri. So we have 5 and 11. So if you add an insulation, you add an insulation of 6 millimeter thickness, that's the worst case scenario. And then when you add it further, then you will start increasing your rate of heat transfer again. Okay. So one has to be very careful when one decides on the thickness. And if the only thickness available to you is a maximum of, let's say, 6 millimeters, then I would not add anything, because if I was to add any thickness between 0 and 6 millimeters, what I'm doing is I'm reducing my thermal resistance and hence increasing the rate of heat transfer. So I will not add any thickness if the insulation thickness available to me is 6 millimeters or below. In fact, even above 6 millimeters, until some point, you will see that your resistance is still below the initial starting value. Is that clear? So can somebody think of a situation where the idea of this critical resistance is useful? Sorry, critical radius.
Sir, in cases where heat transfer is important, heat transfer is where, for example, in the uh, cases similar to the gaming PC kind of where we want to transfer the heat very quickly. So providing an insulation will benefit in addition to using a good material for heat transfer.
Right. So where you would want to increase your rate of heat transfer, then this idea is very useful. Okay, especially in your electrical wires, because you do want an insulation on the wires to prevent electric shock. At the same time, the wires are getting hot, so you would want to increase the rate of heat transfer so that the insulation material does not melt. Okay, so that's well, a blessing in disguise that you can insulate the wire electrically. At the same time, you can decrease the resistance thermally. Okay, so that's a classic example. But be careful. Calculate the value of K and H, and then calculate the critical resistance, critical radius. Okay. So in this case, for the same example that I've taken, my R critical is only a function of K and H. Okay, so if I started with a pipe where the internal radius was let's say did I make a mistake here? I'm sorry, R critical, yeah, R critical was 11. So right, so if I started with a situation where my Ri was equal to 12 millimeters, so I had a 24 millimeter pipe to start with, then I am already beyond my critical radius. Okay, remember this R is 11 millimeters. Okay. So that means that I will not have a situation where adding insulation will lead to reduction in resistance. Okay, so if you are in that situation, then you don't need to worry. If you have these large ducts carrying cold air that you want to insulate, okay, let's say you have a circular duct which is quite large in size, and the insulation K and H value are still the same. So you would get an R critical of 11 millimeters, but your duct diameter already is 200 millimeters, 20 centimeter. You don't need to worry about critical radius at all in that case. Okay. But in these thin tubes or tiny wires, you would worry about your critical radius ideas.
Sir, in the engineering applications where we want to insulate, the idea of R critical is just to make sure that this is the lowest. But for engineering applications, we need R which is outside the box or the dotted line that you show in that you have drawn in the diagram. So can't just put R total is equal to the initial resistance like without any insulation, and then just calculate the two solutions. So R equal to 0 will be like we will discard the solution which with R equal to 0 and work with the solution where R is again regaining its conduction value.
So you mean to say that you add an insulation, but
Yes,
at the
sir.
same time you will not take your convection resistance as this one. Is that what you mean?
No, sir. I'm just saying ki, like we equate it to the initial value because we are interested on the right side of the box.
Right. That is how you would do it. If you were actually, you're right. I mean, that is how you do it. So you, what you're saying is to find this R2, let's say, you'll find that R2 first, and then you will find an R value which is beyond R2. Is that right?
Yes, sir. But also, I would like to add that for our applications like these, we don't need to calculate R critical, right? Because
right, you don't need to calculate R critical. You just want to make sure that you are beyond R2. You are right.
yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, but it is useful to have an idea as to what the R critical is, because if you have a pipe to start with which is beyond your R critical in radius, Ri is greater than R critical, then you don't need to worry about anything.
Yes, sir. Okay, exactly.
Right. Any other questions? So if not, then we will stop here. We're out of time, and then I'll discuss about heat fins starting tomorrow. So I'll stop the recording, and if you have any questions, you can ask them.